My name is Jason Barkeloo. I'm the founder and CEO of Nobella Tech. This is my 5th startup, and this is after I had a military career, so I've got a little bit of a crazy background. So I have a kind of a little different take on it. Of course, there's technological issues here that significantly hinder the scale, no doubt about that. There's a problem with being early. It ranges from everything about the slowness of doing transactions in a distributed model all the way through to lack of tools. There's also a human resources component. I mean, try to find a good qualified person that can go to work on blockchain. Talk about scale. If you're a blockchain programmer right now, man, you can, it's like back in 1990s when you were doing HTML and you could command $150,000 salary to throw up a little stupid website. So I think that it ranges from that simplicity of at the human resources level to the regulatory level, which I'm not going to opine on anymore. That's been beaten around pretty well. But I think there's also the issues of the tools. You know, there's a significant shortage of tools. I think that's one of the reasons why some of the funders are really focused on the tools, because that'll be the next big push in order to get to a point where we can begin to build these applications that everybody can understand and can use, which comes to the final piece that I'd mentioned, which is the lack of the user interface across the board. And I think people are even talking about standards at this point. I think anybody talking about standards right now for this thing is really off the mark. We're a long way away from being able to talk about standards. I think one of the biggest ones that comes to my mind, I've got a pretty deep background in trusted computing, is maintenance and control of your own identity. I just think somebody was talking earlier today about millennials and they don't really care about their privacy and that sort of thing. But, you know, I'm of the position that this is the most fundamental human right, to be able to control your own identity. And if you give up that right, the unintended consequences are really significant. So the one big blockchain application that I'm of the position of that can be revolutionary to everything, nothing against green leafy vegetables, but is secure, is your control of your identity. So mine's a little different. We're not about R&D. I'm not going to let my team engineer us into oblivion. Our job is to build a sustainable revenue generating company that provides my investors with an ROI. And if you start getting lost into the blockchain or AWS or any of these enabling technologies, and that's all it is, it's an enabling technology. If you get lost in that weed, you end up doing great and wonderful things that ends up nowhere, ends up in the pantheon of failures from a market perspective. And so I kind of implore that it's important that you have these understandings of what's happening at the engineering level, at the R&D level, but at the same time recognize that there are certain companies that are going to do really, really well in that area, and you got to pick, am I going to go down that path or am I not going to go down that path? So in my company, all we care about is using them. Just making sure that if it makes sense, we use blockchain. If it doesn't make sense, we're on AWS. So for us, it's a very hybrid approach. And for some folks, they think everything is on the blockchain. You know, everything's got to be moved to the blockchain. For me, I'm not of that position. So I'm really kind of backing up from my peers here who are really talking at the engineering level. And I'm more of talking about why it's important to branch beyond just the engineering, understand what's going to happen in the market with this wonderful amount of engineering that's being done. There's also going to be this natural evolution that's going to occur. You know, for me, it's about simplicity. At the end of the day, the more complex it is, the more difficult it's going to be to scale. And let me give you a great example. How many are you old enough to remember VHS and Betamax, right? So, you know, I said that to my son. He's like, huh? I said, you ever heard of an 8-track tape? He had no idea what I was talking about. The point of the matter that I'm making here is that not the best is always going to win. The simplicity is generally what's going to run the day. So Betamax, I had that. I had VHS. I loved Betamax. Couldn't stand VHS, but the only movies I could get were on VHS. So at the end of the day, we're sitting here with this idea of how do we scale? And I have to look at what's going to be the simplest way to go. And the simpler it is, the easier it's going to be to monetize it, to get it out into the market space. And the other one that I'll bring up is modems versus where we are today. You know, good gosh, you know, the leaps that we made just in the modems to where we are today is incredibly significant. And who would have ever dreamed that modems were going to disappear, right? I mean, we thought modems were going to be around forever, and you're just going to increase the baud rate. So 3 to 5 years out, right? So let me pull out my little crystal ball here, and I'm going to make everybody in this room billions and billions of dollars. All right. Plastics. You know? So you know, when I think about what we're going through right now, it's a very disruptive period of time, and every day, every one of us that's in space sees something new. There's just something that happens, and I think what we're going to see in 3 to 5 years is another disruption. I think that we're talking today about blockchain. I think in 3 to 5 years, we're going to be talking about something else that this has stimulated. That's what I think we're going to see. Yeah, I'm just going to add to his point. Occam's razor, maximum principle. If you can't focus on those, you're lost.